In Ajax Essential Training, we're going to be covering a lot of topics. Here's a quick overview. Going to start off with Developer Essentials. That's going to include the development workflow, how to choose the right tools, including text editors, browsers, servers. And I'm also going to talk about the prerequisites that I'm expecting you to know: HTML, CSS, and at least a little bit of JavaScript. The next chapter covers the DOM and XML. I'm not sure how much knowledge you're coming into this with, so I'm going to at least do an overview about the DOM and XML to get you up to speed so you understand what's going on throughout the rest of this course. Next up is XML HTTP requests. As I just talked about, the essence of Ajax is the XML HTTP request, and so we're going to do an entire chapter covering it and seeing it in action. In previewing links with Ajax, we'll get into the nitty-gritty of how to do code that you can pick up and use anywhere to read in HTML files and use them to give your site and its users a little bit more information. In creating dynamic forms, you'll see how to use Ajax and a little bit of CSS and JavaScript to make your sites more dynamic and useful to your users. Dynamic maps, again, will use Ajax and JavaScript and CSS, along with your already existing HTML, to again provide your users with more information as they traverse your site. Then we'll get into Ajax frameworks. A great deal of the power of Ajax has come from the number of frameworks and libraries available for anyone to use, and so in this chapter, we'll cover some of the more popular ones and why you'd want to pick one over another. And finally, in using the UE animation widget, we're talking about the Yahoo User Interface Library and using its animation component along with a number of other parts of its library in order to add really nice effects to your website without having to do a lot of coding by yourself. One other thing I want to point out is that throughout this course, I'm not going to be reading every line of code. Primarily, I'm not going to do that because it's very boring. But in addition, instead of reading every line of code, I'll be going over each line and discussing what it's doing and the concepts behind it. So if you don't have access to the exercise files, you should still be able to pause the video and type up what you see on the screen. So now, let's get started.